Okay, I'm getting ready to go out. If you know what's happening in Portland tonight, you can figure out where I'm going. I obviously won't be posting this until after I get back, but while I'm waiting on my kid to finish getting ready, I wanted to talk through a couple of things about nonviolent direct action. As I'm seeing more and more people planning a diversity of protests and other direct actions, I wanted to put forward a couple of things to think about. In permaculture, we say obtain a yield. And when we're planning our direct actions, we don't want our efforts to be in vain. We want to get the maximum yield for the labor that we are giving, right? And especially if we are looking at potentially engaging in civil disobedience and folks might get arrested, you want those sacrifices to yield something. They have to help advance the movement. Is the way that we're spending our money, our planning, our life hours, risking our bodies and all kinds of consequences, is that actually going to yield a sufficient result and help advance the cause, help us erode the pillars of support under the regime, get closer to toppling the autocrat in power and restoring a stable government? We aren't doing this for shits and giggles, y'all. We're doing it to win. We are in it to win it. So I would like to put forward really quickly here before I have to go, like to offer you 6 points to consider when evaluating where it is going to be most effective for you and your local organizing group to act. It's not just where you want to do these nonviolent direct actions for maximum impact, it's also when. Timing has to be strategic. Okay, so I'd like to put forward these 6 points, and I hope that they will be helpful for you and your group as you're planning. Number 1, point of decision. This is where the power to act on a campaign's demand rests. For example, picking a slumlord's office, a corporate boardroom, a state capitol, or an international summit meeting. Where are the points of decision that are happening right now for the regime, and how can you show up and disrupt them? Probably a good time to go follow Walter Masterson. He's somebody who's really good at this tactic. Number 2, points of destruction. These are places where harm or injustice is already occurring. For example, the place where resources are being extracted, like a strip mine, or the place where waste from the point of production is being dumped, like a landfill. What does that look like for us in the United States? What are the points of destruction? The next point is the point of consumption, the location of interaction with a product or service that is linked to injustice. For example, these are things like consumer boycotts, the shop and returns at Target, or storefront demonstrations, the sit-ins at Target. Another one right now is Quit GPT, because OpenAI donates to Donald Trump and they make a ton of money on their contracts with ICE. The next point is point of production, where something of economic value is being produced. This is where strikes, picket lines, work slowdowns, work to rules, and factory takeovers all become point of production actions. Labor strikes, y'all. If you work in an industry that supports the regime and you can't quit, how can you from within work to rule? How can you engage in work slowdowns if you can't do outright work stoppages? This is how you hit the point of production. Point of assumption. This is hitting the propaganda game, right? If basic assumptions can be exposed as contrary to people's lived experience or core values, entire belief systems can be shifted. Point of assumption actions include exposing hypocrisy, reframing the issue, amplifying the voices previously silenced as characters in the story, or offering an alternate version to the narrative being put out by the regime. For example, Donald Trump is saying that he's been exonerated in the Epstein files. He also says the Epstein files are completely a hoax, right? The point of assumption from the regime is move along, nothing to see here, we're done investigating. And instead, everybody is calling a fig and saying this is a massive cover-up by the federal government, and that is fracturing the regime's support massively. Another point of assumption is the rhetoric from the regime that all of the immigrants who are being abducted are all violent gang members and criminals. We are all doing a really good job disrupting that false narrative and elevating the stories of people voices who were previously suppressed or maligned. Hugely important in helping shift the popular opinion on the regime. Okay, the last one is point of opportunity. A calendar event such as a religious or commemorative date, national holiday, or a scheduled visit or speech by a significant figure. Okay, so for point of opportunity, that can look like us creating opportunities, creating our own events and publicizing them widely, getting massive public support for those events. Speaking of, No King's Day just went live today with their map for events for the March 28th No King's Day 3 rally. They've already got hundreds and hundreds of folks who've posted. And I think last time was it like 2,700 events around the world. And I bet they're going to surpass that. easily this time. So make sure you go and register your group's No King's Day event or find an event near you. If you don't see it posted today because it's the first day the map is live, keep checking back. There will be lots of events to go to. They're going to be everywhere. Okay, so that's a point of opportunity, right? No Kings 1 and 2 were the two single largest days of protest in American history. No King's Day 3 is going to be even larger. That captures media attention. Remember, for Hands Off, nobody really wanted to talk about it. Like Rachel Maddow was talking about it. Independent creators like myself and others were obviously talking about Hands Off, but there wasn't as much press coverage as there should have been. Then No King's Day 1 was even bigger, and more outlets had to start covering it. They underreported the numbers massively, but they had to cover it. Then by No King's Day 2, it's just everywhere. It's all over the news. Even Fox News had to cover some of it, not heavily. And again, they're still underreporting the numbers. Often journalists show up at the very beginning of an event, and a lot of people show up late and they don't get the full head count. But we have gotten widespread coverage of these nonviolent protests that are easily accessible, entry points into nonviolent resistance work, entry points into the pro-democracy movement, easily accessible, where people are showing up for the first time ever in their entire lives, resisting fascism. They're coming out, they're feeling supported, they're getting plugged in, and then they're leveling up to bigger events. And also, the pillars of support under the regime are seeing millions of people in the streets. Not like radical, protesters, not like black bloc kids. No, like soccer moms with their families, grannies with their walkers, veterans in the thousands and thousands. They're seeing millions of very ordinary, reasonable people, very reasonable, normal people who've never done this before. Not radical, just people who love democracy, who want to see the restoration of the Constitution, who want to see the rule of law once again function in this country. Okay, so we can create points of opportunity for ourselves, and they don't have to all be like massive No King's Day events. They can be small honkin' waves, overpassing events. Make sure, though, that if you are engaging in one of those, that you have somebody there who's capturing what's happening and sharing it on social media. Everything that we're doing on some level has to be a PR game. We are here to convince people to no longer support the regime, not just people, but also institutions, and institutions are run by people, right? So whoever's minds you can change, we're convincing people to withdraw their support from the regime. Ideally, we want them to become big supporters of the pro-democracy movement, to get really plugged in and to lend their resources, their skills, their time, their labor to the resistance movement. But at the very least, as Tim Snyder says, no is an act of resistance, saying, I just don't really feel like it. We don't need people to be super supportive. We just need them to be non-compliant with the regime. We need them to say, like, actually, I don't really want to donate to that Republican's campaign fund. I don't actually really want to show up and vote for a Republican. No, I don't really feel down with what's happening here. We don't need them to be super active supporters. That would be ideal. It would be ideal. But if we can just get them to shift from support to being non-supportive, that's a victory for us. And so that's part of what we're doing by making sure that we document, we have good messaging, we have a good PR campaign for the resistance, and not wasting the opportunity. We want to be effective with our nonviolent tactics, with our direct actions. And that means making sure that we're documenting and then sharing as much as we can after the fact. Because you may do a little honkin' wave and, like 50 or 70 folks will show up and participate in it. And then all of the cars that drive by are seeing the signs that you have up. Maybe you're engaging with pedestrians who walk by. But if anything happens at that honkin' wave, right, you want to have somebody on your crew who's documenting that can share that and use that as an opportunity. And even just documenting the fact that there were 70 people, if you're in a deeply red county, being like, hey, on a Tuesday afternoon, folks gave of their time to stand and speak out publicly against the regime. You are normalizing resistance for thousands of people who didn't actually see you drive by, right? Sharing on social media, crucially important. Okay, sorry to ramble about that. As well, for point of opportunity, it means taking things that the regime has on their calendar, events that they have planned, and disrupting them. Like Hands Off, we ruined Donald Trump's birthday celebration. We had far more focus, far higher, millions more people attending Hands Off than attended Donald Trump's pathetic dictator military birthday parade. How can we take their calendar events and make them be about us and use those to advance our cause by disrupting them or co-opting them in some way? Same for holidays. Are there holidays coming up that we can capture for us, right? That we can utilize for our cause? May Day, America's 250th anniversary on the 4th of July this year. Okay, I gotta get going. I gotta be on the square and be on the level. So I hope that these points are helpful for you all and your group in your organizing.